Cleaner rescues child at mansion door. When the boss sees it, he takes a shocking action. Sarah Johnson felt her heart race when she saw the boy trembling at the door of the mansion where she had worked for 2 years. His clothes were torn, and his bruised face revealed he had escaped from some terrible place. Without thinking twice, she dropped the bucket of water with cleaning supplies and ran to the child. When she hugged him, she felt his body shake like a leaf in the wind. It was at that moment that her boss, Richard Thompson, appeared at the main entrance. "What is the meaning of this, Sarah?" he shouted, with that authoritative voice she knew well. "Let go of that child immediately and return to your work." "I can't, Mr. Richard. Look at him. He's hurt and hungry," replied Sarah, hugging the boy tighter. The boy lifted his brown eyes, tears still streaming down his dirty face, and whispered something that made Sarah freeze completely. "I knew your mother, ma'am. She used to sing a song very softly while she worked." Sarah felt her legs weaken. How could that child know something so intimate? She did indeed hum while cleaning, a habit she had since childhood, taught by her own mother. "How do you know that, boy?" she asked, her voice choked. "My name is Ethan. I lived in a bad place, but I managed to escape. You have the same way of singing as a woman I remember from when I was little." Richard came down the entrance steps with firm strides, his face red with anger. "Enough of this crazy talk, Sarah. I warned you to let go of that child. If you don't obey now, you're fired." But Sarah didn't move. Something inside her screamed that she couldn't abandon that boy. There was something familiar about him, a strange feeling she couldn't explain. It was then that Victoria Thompson, the boss's wife, appeared at the door. Upon seeing the child, she turned as pale as a sheet of paper. "My God, it can't be," she murmured, holding onto the doorframe. "What is it, Victoria? Do you know this boy?" asked Richard, noticing his wife's strange reaction. I, she stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Ethan looked at Victoria with curiosity, as if he also recognized her from somewhere. Then he turned back to Sarah. "I escaped from a place they called Guardian Angel's Home. It's nearby. The director there always treated me differently from the other boys, said I had a rich family somewhere." Sarah felt her heart beat even faster. 8 years ago, she had lost her son, Ethan James, in a way she never fully understood. He was only 5 years old when he disappeared during a walk in the park. They said there was an accident, but they never properly explained what happened. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "How old are you, Ethan?" asked Sarah, trying to keep her voice steady. 13 years old, ma'am. But I don't remember my childhood well. I only remember small things like that song and a mark I have on my arm." Sarah almost fainted when Ethan rolled up the sleeve of his red shirt and showed a small crescent moon-shaped birthmark on his right arm. It was exactly like the mark her son had. "No, it can't be," she whispered, tears beginning to stream down her face. Richard realized something very serious was happening. He approached the group with an expression of someone losing control of the situation. "Victoria, go inside now. And you, Sarah, stop this performance. I'm going to call the shelter and return this child." "No!" shouted Victoria for the first time in years of marriage, surprising everyone. "Don't call anywhere." The tension in the air was almost palpable. Mrs. Harriet, the housekeeper for over 20 years, appeared on the porch, drawn by the shouts. When she saw Ethan, her expression completely changed. "My dear lord, I know this boy," she said, slowly descending the steps. "What do you mean, Mrs. Harriet?" asked Sarah, still holding the boy tightly. The housekeeper approached slowly, watching Ethan carefully. Her hands trembled as she adjusted her apron. "It was a few years ago, but I'm certain I've seen this boy before." Richard was growing increasingly nervous. He began pacing back and forth, running his hands through his graying hair. "You've all gone mad. He's just a runaway from a shelter. I'm calling the authorities right now." "Mr. Richard, wait," said Ethan with a firmness unusual for his age. "I have documents that prove who my real parents are. They're hidden at the shelter, but I know where to find them." Victoria let out a desperate moan and leaned against the wall. Her tears began to flow uncontrollably. "Richard, we need to talk. Now." We have nothing to talk about, Victoria. I'll handle this my way. But Mrs. Harriet stepped forward, interrupting the argument. Mr. Richard, I can't keep the secret any longer. 8 years ago I helped you and the madam with something that has never given me peace of conscience. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard looked at the housekeeper with a warning expression. Harriet, be careful what you say. No, Mr. Richard, it's long past time for the truth to come out, she said, turning to Sarah. My dear, this boy didn't disappear like they told you back then. He was brought here when he was little. Sarah felt the world spinning around her. She held on to Ethan tighter, as if afraid he might disappear again. What are you saying, Mrs. Harriet? Mr. Richard found out who you really were, Sarah. He knew your father was the man who nearly ruined his business years ago. Out of revenge, when you had the baby and were widowed, he set everything up to separate you two. Victoria was sobbing uncontrollably now, confirming the housekeeper's words. It's true, Sarah. I couldn't have children. When Richard suggested we take care of Ethan, I thought it would be a chance for us to be a real family. But what happened? Why did he end up in the shelter? Asked Sarah, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Victoria took a deep breath before continuing. I couldn't bear the guilt. Every night I saw your despair when you searched for him. You even came to our door a few times, asking if we'd seen your son. I lied, but it was destroying me inside. So you took him to the shelter? Sarah was trying to process everything. Yes, I thought it would be better for him to grow up away from all these lies, but I always planned to tell the truth one day. Richard, who had remained silent during the confession, exploded in anger. You've all gone mad. This is complete nonsense, Sarah. I'll give you $10,000 to take this boy and leave my property right now. I won't take a single penny of your dirty money, shouted Sarah, holding Ethan even tighter. It was then that Ethan turned to all the adults and said something that completely changed the course of the situation. There's one more thing you need to know. At the shelter, I overheard the director talking to a woman on the phone. They were talking about fake papers and how my birth mother should never find out where I was. What director is this? Asked Mrs. Harriet. Mr. Reynolds. He always treated me differently, said I was special. Sometimes he'd get calls and then look at me strangely afterward. Victoria covered her face with her hands. Richard, what have you done? I did nothing, he lied, but his voice trembled. Ethan continued speaking, with impressive maturity for his age. Once I heard him saying he received money every month to keep quiet about me, and that if anyone came looking for me, he should notify them immediately. Sarah felt anger growing in her chest. 8 years of suffering, 8 years searching for her son, 8 years of guilt and pain. Richard Thompson, you stole my son from me, she shouted, her voice choked with emotion. Prove it, he challenged, but his defensive posture already revealed his guilt. Mrs. Harriet approached Sarah and placed a hand on her shoulder. My dear, I can prove it. All these years I've kept documents, letters, receipts, everything that proves what your Mr. Richard did. The revelation left everyone in shock. Victoria looked at her husband with an expression of contempt. You kept paying bribes all these years, even after Ethan went to the shelter? Victoria, don't listen to these women. They're trying to extort us. But Ethan broke free from Sarah's embrace and walked over to Richard. With steady eyes, he stared at the man who had destroyed his childhood. You may lie to everyone, but I remember some things. I remember living in a big house when I was little. I remember a woman who cried a lot at night. And I remember a song someone used to sing to help me sleep. Ethan turned to Sarah and began to hum a soft melody. It was exactly the song Sarah used to sing to her son when he was a baby, the same one her mother sang to her. Sleep, sleep, my little one, for Mommy is here. Sarah broke down in tears. There was no more doubt. That was her Ethan James. My son, my little boy. She ran and hugged him, kissing his face repeatedly. Richard attempted one last, desperate move. That proves nothing. Any child could have heard that song somewhere. But Mrs. Harriet wouldn't let any more lies pass. Mr. Richard, do you want me to tell them about the nightly visits you made to Ethan's room when he lived here? About how you would look at him and sigh, saying you were paying for what his father had done to you? Enough, Harriet, "No, you will not shut me up," she shouted for the first time in 20 years of work. "You always said you were getting revenge on the man who nearly ruined you financially. That making his daughter suffer would be your perfect revenge." Victoria, who until then had been in shock, stood up with a determination no one knew she possessed. "Richard, you lied to me all these years. You said Ethan was an orphan, that his parents had disappeared. I thought I was giving a chance to a helpless child. Victoria, you wanted a child as much as I wanted revenge. Don't play saint now." "I wanted a child, but not like this. Never like this." The argument was interrupted by a noise coming from the property's entrance. The gardener, Carl, came running. "Mr. Richard, there are people from the shelter here at the gate. They say they're looking for a boy who ran away." Panic took over Richard. If the people from the shelter came in and discovered the whole truth, his reputation would be ruined forever. "Carl, tell them we haven't seen any child around here." "No, Carl," shouted Victoria. "Let them in, we need to talk to them." "Victoria, have you lost your mind? If they find out..." "Find out what, Richard? The truth? It's about time." But Ethan stepped forward ahead of the adults. "I'm not going back to that place. Never again. Now I've found my real mother." Sarah protectively hugged him. "No one will take you from me again, my son. No one." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The sound of cars approaching the house made everyone tense up. Through the windows, they could see 3 men in suits getting out of a black car. "It's them," said Ethan, hiding behind Sarah. Victoria did something that surprised everyone. She quickly went into the house and came back with a folder full of documents. "Sarah, you need to see this before they get here." "What is it?" "All the receipts for the payments Richard made to the shelter over these years. I found out a while ago, but I never had the courage to confront him." Richard tried to grab the folder from his wife's hands, but Mrs. Harriet stepped between them. "You will not touch her or these papers." "Harriet, you're fired. Get off my property now." "I'm not leaving without this family." She pointed to Sarah and Ethan. The men from the shelter approached the main door. The one who appeared to be the leader of the group knocked hard on the door. "Open up. We know the boy is in there." Richard ran to answer, but Victoria held him by the arm. "Before you open that door, you're going to explain something to me. Why did you insist so much that I hire Sarah as a cleaner 2 years ago?" The question caught Richard off guard. He looked at Sarah, then at Ethan, then back at Victoria. I needed a competent employee." "Liar," shouted Victoria. "You brought her here on purpose. You planned all of this." The knocking on the door became more insistent. "Open up or we're coming in." Sarah held Ethan's hand and looked into his eyes. "Son, no matter what happens, I will fight for you until the end. Do you understand?" "I understand, Mom, and I'll fight too." The word Mom coming from his mouth made Sarah feel a happiness she hadn't felt in 8 years. But it wouldn't last long. Richard opened the door and the 3 men entered. The leader, who introduced himself as Dr. Reynolds, the director of the shelter, looked directly at Ethan. "Ethan, you've given us a lot of trouble, boy. Come on, it's time to go back." "I'm not going back," shouted Ethan, hiding behind Sarah. "Mr. Director," said Victoria in a firm voice, "before you take the boy, we need to clarify a few things." Dr. Reynolds looked at her suspiciously. "What kind of clarification? Like, for example, why you received money for 8 years to keep Ethan at the shelter?" The man turned pale. He looked at Richard, who was sweating bullets. "I don't know what you're talking about." Mrs. Harriet stepped forward. "Oh, you don't? Then let me refresh your memory." She went to a cabinet in the living room and took out a shoebox. Inside it were dozens of receipts, letters, and documents. Here is all the proof. Bank transfers, letters with instructions, even recorded conversations. "Recorded?" asked Richard, surprised. "Yes, Mr. Richard. All these years I recorded several of your phone conversations. I knew that one day the truth would need to be told." Dr. Reynolds tried to leave discreetly, but Carl, the gardener, blocked the exit. "You're not going anywhere," said the simple man, but with determination. "You can't keep me here." "We're not keeping you," said Victoria. "We just want you to explain why you separated a mother from her son." Sarah approached the director, with Ethan still clinging to her waist. "For 8 years, I searched for my son. 8 years. Do you know what it's like for a mother to spend all that time not knowing if her child is alive or in need? I was just following orders." "Orders from whom?" asked Mrs. Harriet, waving the documents in her hand. Dr. Reynolds looked at Richard, who gestured for him to stay silent. "I won't say anything without my lawyers." Ethan broke free from Sarah and stood in front of the director. "You always said my parents didn't want me, that I was lucky to be in the shelter because they abandoned me. Why did you lie to me?" "Son, things are complicated." "They're not complicated," shouted Ethan, tears of anger in his eyes. "You separated me from my mother and lied to both of us all these years." The boy's emotions moved everyone present. Even the other 2 men who came with the director seemed uncomfortable with the situation. Victoria approached them. "Gentlemen, did you know about the scheme that was happening?" One of them, younger, replied, "No, ma'am. We're just employees. Dr. Reynolds told us it was a simple runaway case." "Well, now you know it's not. This boy was kidnapped from his own mother when he was 5 years old." The employee looked shocked at the director. "Doctor, is this true?" Dr. Reynolds was cornered. He looked around and realized there was no way out. "Look, I can explain everything, but we need to talk in private." "No," said Sarah firmly. "Enough with private talks, secrets, lies. If you have something to say it in front of everyone." Richard, seeing the situation was completely out of control, tried one last desperate move. "Sarah, I can compensate you for all this. I can give $100,000, $200,000, whatever you want. But let's forget this story." "Forget?" Sarah looked at him with contempt. "Forget that you stole 8 years of my son's life. Forget that you made me believe he had gone through something terrible. Forget all the nights I cried myself to sleep." "Sarah, please be reasonable." "Reasonable?" she shouted. "Reasonable would have been you leaving my son alone from the start." Ethan approached Richard and faced him with impressive courage for his age. "You don't have enough money to pay for what you did to me and my mother. You don't." Victoria, who until then had only been listening, took an action no one expected. "Richard, I want a divorce, and I'm giving half of all our assets to Sarah and Ethan." "Victoria, you've gone completely mad." "No, Richard. For the first time in years, I'm thinking clearly. You made me an accomplice to a monstrosity. I'll never forgive myself for having agreed to this initially." Dr. Reynolds, realizing everything was falling apart, tried to negotiate. "Look, maybe we can reach an agreement. I can return all the money I received." "Doctor," said Mrs. Harriet, "it's not just about money. You committed a crime. You separated a family." Technically nothing," interrupted Sarah. "You lied, deceived, bribed. That has a name. It's a crime." One of the shelter employees approached Dr. Reynolds. "Doctor, I think we'd better leave. This situation is none of our business." "You're not going anywhere," said Victoria. "Everyone involved will stay here until we resolve this." Richard made one last desperate attempt. "Victoria, think about what you're doing. Our reputation, our business, our social life, everything will be destroyed." "And you think I care about that now?" she replied, looking at Ethan. "Because of your thirst for revenge. This boy spent years away from his real mother. Victoria, you wanted a child as much as I wanted revenge. But I didn't know there was already a mother looking for him. You deceived me too." The argument was interrupted when Carl, the gardener, entered the room with another surprise. "Mr. Richard, more people are arriving. Looks like the press." Panic took over Richard. If the press found out about the scandal, his business career would be over. "How did they find out?" Mrs. Harriet smiled for the first time that tense day. "I called them before you all got here," she said, addressing the shelter staff. "I thought it would be important to have witnesses for all this." "Harriet, you didn't do that." Richard was desperate. "I did, and it was the best thing I've done in my entire life." Voices and movement could already be heard outside the mansion. Reporters getting ready, cameras being positioned. Ethan looked out the window and saw all the commotion. "Mum, what's going to happen now?" Sarah hugged him and kissed his forehead. "Now, my son, the truth will be told to everyone, and no one will ever be able to separate the two of us again." Victoria approached Sarah and extended her hand. Sarah, I know you may never forgive me for what I did, but I want to help you in whatever way necessary from now on. Sarah looked at Victoria for a moment, seeing genuine remorse in her eyes. Victoria, you were also deceived by your husband. I hold no grudge against you. Thank you, said Victoria, with tears in her eyes. Dr. Reynolds, seeing there was no way out, approached Sarah. Ma'am, I wanted to apologize. I know there's no forgiveness for what we did. But, Doctor, Sarah interrupted, your apologies won't give me back the 8 years I lost with my son. But at least now he's with me again. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The reporters began knocking on the door. Victoria looked at everyone in the room. Before they come in, I want everyone to know, I'm going to tell the whole truth. I won't hide anything. Richard made one last attempt at manipulation. Victoria, think of our family, our children. We don't have children, Richard, and a real family isn't built on lies and suffering. Sarah stood up, holding Ethan's hand firmly. I'm ready to talk to the journalists. I want everyone to know what you did. Mum, said Ethan, I want to speak too. I want to tell them what it was like living in the home, not knowing my real mother was looking for me. Are you sure, son? It might be difficult. I'm sure. All these years I always felt something was wrong. Now I know what it was. Victoria opened the door and the reporters entered. The cameras immediately began recording. Good afternoon, said the lead reporter. We received a tip about a possible case of kidnapping and extortion involving this property. We'd like to hear from those involved. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped in front of the cameras. My name is Sarah Johnson. 8 years ago, my son Ethan James disappeared under circumstances that were never fully explained. Today I discovered he didn't disappear. He was deliberately taken from me. The reporter was immediately interested. Can you give us more details? Richard Thompson, owner of this house and my former employer, discovered I was the daughter of a man who caused problems for his business years ago. Out of revenge, he arranged the kidnapping of my son when he was 5 years old. The camera turned to Richard, who was visibly nervous. Mr. Thompson, is this true? Richard tried to deny it, but his voice came out shaky. This is slander. They're trying to extort me. Mrs. Harriet approached the cameras. I am Harriet Wilson. I've worked in this house for 20 years. I have proof of everything being said. She showed the box with the documents. Here are receipts for payments made to the home, recorded conversations, letters with instructions. Everything proving there was a scheme to keep the boy away from his mother. The reporter quickly examined some documents. These documents appear to be authentic. Dr. Reynolds, as director of the home, what do you have to say? Dr. Reynolds lowered his head. I was instructed to keep the boy at the home and not allow anyone to adopt him. I received financial compensation for this. And the biological mother? Did she try to look for the child? Many times, replied Sarah, her voice choked. I searched in all the homes in the area. When I arrived at Guardian Angel's home, they always said there wasn't any child with my son's name. Ethan approached the cameras. I always knew something was wrong. The director treated me differently from the other boys. Sometimes he would receive phone calls and then watch me. Once I heard him say my mother could never find me. The reporter seemed impressed with the boy's maturity. How do you feel now, Ethan? Happy to be with my mother again, but sad for the years we lost together. I won't be able to be a child again, but I can be her son from now on. Victoria approached the cameras, her face wet with tears. I want to publicly apologize. Initially, I agreed to raise Ethan because I couldn't have children. My husband told me he was an orphan. When I discovered the truth, I should have acted immediately. But I was cowardly. And what do you intend to do now? I will divorce and give half of all my assets to Sarah and Ethan. It's the least I can do to try to repair the harm we caused. Richard, seeing his life crumbling before the cameras, tried one last move. You're believing a fantastic story. This woman is trying to pull a scam. But no one believed him anymore. The evidence was irrefutable. and his own nervousness gave him away. The reporter addressed the cameras. "We are following an impressive case of family reunion after 8 years of forced separation. The authorities will certainly investigate all the accusations heard here today." After the cameras stopped recording, the atmosphere became calmer. The reporters left to prepare the story. Dr. Reynolds and his employees left, probably straight to their lawyers, and only Sarah, Ethan, Victoria, Richard, Mrs. Harriet, and Carl remained. Richard, completely defeated, sat in an armchair and put his hands over his face. "My life is over," he murmured. "No, Richard," said Sarah, surprising everyone. "Your life isn't over. You can use the time you have to try to repair the harm you've done." "How?" He raised his red eyes. "There are other families who went through what I went through, missing children, desperate mothers. You can help find them." Ethan approached the man who had been his tormentor for so long. "Mr. Richard, I know you did bad things, but I don't want you to suffer forever. I just want you to understand that separating families causes a lot of pain." The boy's maturity and forgiveness deeply touched Richard. For the first time in years, he truly cried, "Ethan, I don't know how to apologize for something like this." "You don't need to apologize to me. You need to apologize to my mother and to yourself." Sarah approached Richard. "Richard, what you did was terrible. But today my son returned to me, and that's what matters. If you truly want to redeem yourself, use your influence and your money to help other families." Victoria hugged Sarah. "Thank you for being more generous with us than we deserve. Victoria, I learned from my mother that hatred only generates more hatred. My son is with me now, and that's what matters." Mrs. Harriet approached the group. "Sarah, I would like to continue helping you if you'll allow me. During all these years, taking care of this situation became my life's mission." "Of course, Mrs. Harriet. You were the one who made this reunion possible. You are family to us now." Carl, who had been quietly observing everything, approached timidly. "Mrs. Sarah, if you need anything, you can count on me, too. What happened here today touched me deeply." "Thank you, Carl. I think we all learned something important today." Ethan looked around at all those people who in some way had been part of his story. "Mom, what will happen to us now?" "Now, my son, we will rebuild our lives. You will study, make friends, be happy. We will make up for lost time, not with sadness for what has passed, but with joy for what is to come. And where will we live?" Victoria stepped forward. "Sarah, I would like to offer this house to you. It is the least I can do." "Victoria, this house holds no good memories for us. I would rather we start from scratch, in a place of our own." "Then at least allow me to help you find and buy a new house. Please." Sarah looked at Ethan, who nodded. "I accept, Victoria. Thank you." Richard rose from his armchair and approached Sarah and Ethan. "Sarah, I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I would like to be able to follow your lives from a distance, not to interfere, just to try to redeem myself by seeing Ethan grow up happy." Sarah thought for a moment. "Richard, that will depend on how you behave from now on. If you truly wish to redeem yourself, you must show it with actions, not words." "I understand, and I will do everything in my power to deserve a second chance." Ethan looked at all the adults around him. "I want everyone to know that I hold no grudges against anyone. What happened is in the past. Now I just want to be happy with my mother and get to know better the people who helped us today." Mrs. Harriet smiled. "Ethan, you are a very wise boy. Your mother raised you well, even from afar." "What do you mean, Mrs. Harriet?" "All these years, your mother never gave up on you. She kept working, but always saved money to keep searching. She put up posters all over town, talked to everyone she knew, went to every possible place. Her motherly love for you never diminished, not for a single day." Ethan hugged Sarah tighter. "Mum, thank you for never giving up on me. I would never give up on you, my son, never." Victoria watched the scene, moved. "Sarah, you are an incredible mother. Ethan was very lucky to have you." "No, Victoria, I was the lucky one to have him, and today I have him back." The sun was setting as everyone finally prepared to leave the mansion. Sarah and Ethan would go to Mrs. Harriet's house that night while they planned their next steps. Richard approached Sarah one last time. "Sarah, I will put half of all my assets into an account in Ethan's name. He can use it when he comes of age to study, for whatever he wants." "Richard, please, let me do this. It is the only way I can begin to make up for what I did." Sarah looked at Ethan, who said, "Mom, if he wants to help, I think we should accept. We can use the money to help other children too." "All right. But on one condition, Richard, I want you to create a foundation to reunite separated families. And I want Ethan and me to be part of the decisions about how the money is used." "I accept. I accept any condition you set." Victoria hugged Sarah and Ethan. "Thank you for teaching me what true forgiveness is. You changed my life today." "Victoria, you can also start over. It is never too late to make the right choices." As everyone was leaving the mansion, Ethan stopped at the door and looked back. "Mom, do you know what makes me happiest?" "What, my son?" "Knowing that there are good people in the world. Even after everything that happened, so many people helped us today." Sarah looked around, seeing Mrs. Harriet, Carl, Victoria, and even Richard trying to redeem himself. "It's true, Ethan. In the end, good always triumphs over evil. Always." They walked hand in hand toward the mansion gate. Behind them lay a painful chapter of their lives. Ahead was a future full of possibilities. "Mom, will you teach me that song again?" "Which song, son?" "The one you used to sing when I was little." "Sleep, sleep, my little boy." Sarah smiled with tears of happiness in her eyes. "Of course, my love. Every night, if you'd like." "I'd like that. And Mom?" "Go ahead, Ethan." "I love you." "I love you too, my son. More than anything in the world." And so, after 8 years of suffering, searching, pain and longing, Sarah and Ethan were finally together again. A mother's true love had overcome all the lies, all the obstacles, all the cruelty. The next day, Sarah and Ethan's story was in all the newspapers and on every television channel. The case resonated across America, and hundreds of mothers who were also searching for missing children reached out. Richard, true to his promise, established the Family Reunion Foundation and hired a team of investigators specialized in locating missing children. Victoria joined the project as a volunteer coordinator. Mrs. Harriet became like a grandmother to Ethan, and Carl continued visiting the family regularly, having become a very dear friend. Dr. Reynolds and other shelter staff were investigated and prosecuted. Several other irregularities were uncovered, and dozens of families were able to be reunited. Ethan enrolled in a school near the new home where they lived with Sarah. He was a brilliant student and quickly made many friends. In his school essays, he always wrote about the importance of family and how a mother's love can overcome any obstacle. Sarah returned to work, but now as the coordinator of the foundation created by Richard. Her personal experience made her especially sensitive to helping other mothers in similar situations. In the evenings, before Ethan went to sleep, Sarah would sing the song he had requested, and every morning they woke up grateful to be together again. The story of Sarah and Ethan became a symbol of hope for thousands of families across America. It proved that true love knows no distance, no time, no obstacle capable of defeating it. And so what began as a tragedy turned into a blessing not only for them, but for hundreds of other families who were able to reunite thanks to the foundation, born from this story of pain transformed into hope. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this moving story. Do you believe a mother's love can overcome any obstacle? Leave your opinion in the comments and share with us your own experiences about family and forgiveness. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.